it's just a best practice thing, and not that they're working directly with the DA, but in all honesty, it does help you protect a little bit, because if that's what they're going to use when they roll up on you, is that lab, if they want to check anything out.
Sure, absolutely. Now you mentioned the THC-8 is not naturally occurring in the plant. I mean, neither is THC.
In very trace amounts, but yeah, it's not normal.
Okay, so if someone's going to get THC-8, they're going to get it in some other form other than plant material, because it's going to be distilled or extracted in some way?
Taking this CBD isolate and breaking it down, converting that
They have
into
the
it. And that's kind of why the debate kind of popped up a little bit, because what is an organic conversion? What is, all these, a lot of scientific stuff that honestly I'm not that deep on, but it's all tying into how it's really made and how it can exist, by legalizing it in all of its extracts. What does that really mean? Does that mean all of its extracts, or just a certain way an extract is done?
Well, some of the chemicals are not listed as controlled substances. Certain parts of the plant, for example, ironically, you could have technically a greater than 0.3 THC plant and extract from it and isolate from it, so long as it doesn't have, the THC amounts prohibited in it from a plant that is not considered hemp. You could extract the cannabinoids and probably create. Right? Okay, we realize that. What I was going to say. So, well, on a side note, Alan, you may be aware of this, but an interesting fact and that is rarely spoken about is as the cannabis sativa L plant grows and stands alone, it does not, on its face, represent or have on it the chemical THC. It doesn't exist until such time as some combustible of some kind is added to it, burns off the hydrogen where it becomes THC, which is crazy if you think about it. You know what I mean? Like when the most common tested plant, the most common tested drug in the narcotics, illegality, or the most common test that's given among all labs year after year after year is for marijuana. And what they do is they burn off a molecule that makes it illegal. As it sits there, it's not illegal, but for the use of methane in their, Ducanoids-Levine test, it would not be. All right, but with that being said, and in regards to testing, Jamie Lowell, this is your favorite category, I think. Isn't the real thing that you're talking about from a medicinal standpoint? Of course, every individual's endocannabinoid system is different. They react to the plant differently. Some people, there's always been the theory that you need the whole plant for the entourage effect or the complete effect. And everything you're talking about, the thing we're talking about deemed hemp, still provides all of those things. In fact, the THC hype may just be a lot of hype. That the real medicinal value could be from all these other parts of the plant that you could still get
for sure,
with minimal amounts of THC, right?
Good point,
Jamie's point has always been that, my metaphor is that like the THC is like bench pressing for your health. You know what I mean? Like there's so many other factors that go into, making you healthy in your regimen other than bench pressing. That's like the THC content. You know what I mean? But go ahead, tell me what your thoughts are about that.
Jamie,
okay.
Yeah.
First of all, we've evolved and based upon appearance of Dr. Grinspoon on this very show a few months ago. Unfortunately, he passed away. But he described it as the ensemble effect, because it's not like the THC and the other cannabinoids are out ahead and they're being tagged along with these other components. These are all of these things working synergistically with each other. It's true, you might not need a whole lot of THC in the mix for it to do its thing amidst all those other components.
Oh yeah, you know, strains like Canatonic and things like that, that became so popular because of the, we sell a lot of hemp flower. We sell a lot of hemp flower into provisioning centers, and a lot of them sell it because I really think they don't have the strains, that really benchmark onto the CBD side of things that can bring in more CBG, more things. CBG flower has become hugely popular in the last year, just because so many more people are finding better mood things out of it, and I'm love to mix stuff, so. I'll take hemp flower and mix it with regular flower and get that
Yeah.
one-on-one kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sure.
Nice double up.
What about
I have a
juice?
question.
What about juice? Oh, go ahead, Alan.
My question is on the strains of hemp and how many different strains. You know, we've come to learn since marijuana's been legalized that there's many, many different strains of cannabis, of marijuana, of medical marijuana. You know, that you can look these things up at the seed banks and have your choice of a variety of high THC stuff. So the question in my mind is there, like for medical marijuana, is there a wide variety of different hemp strains? And
Yeah, there's a huge, right now there's an always growing number of them, because a lot of people have come better with, even some back crossing from cannatonic strain probably led to a lot of different things, because I think that hits at like 4 or 5% THC.
Mm-hmm.
So, back crossing that down with some hemp stuff, you can get all kinds of, like, I've had C4, I've grown that. There seems to be a lot of them that are, quasi said to be cannabis strains that have been growing down, like with cannabis names. Bruce Banner is one that my company sells that people kind of hemmed and hawed. I'm like, well, if it's got some lineage to it, then, should it be that? Probably not. But it is what it is. But yeah, no, there's most of them are, I will say, probably sativa leaning, even though CBD has gotten this hype of always being so relaxing. In my opinion, it's, from what I've seen, a lot of them are more sativa leaning. So I'd say 90% of them are all hybrids now, just like a lot of THC strains. But yeah, there's a ton, and there's different ways to get it going, different ways. Like I said, the CBG's gotten really big. And now people have expanded on that. So now they've been able to boost numbers across the board.
You're saying that, wait, just so I understand, for Alyssa, you're saying that amongst the hemp 0.3% THC or less, there's obviously various strains and hybrids that you're working that have that are both sativa and indica. Now that's a categorization that's become less and less significant, it seems to me.
Sure, most of it's really just hybrids, but historically, like Charlotte's Web, I've always thought what I've been taught learned is that it was a sativa leaning strain, and a lot of these hemp strains come from, southern growing regions. It just happened to grow that way.
But what that means is morphology, like just the structure of the plant. There's no other like inference we should draw from it. I mean, there's the common belief that sativa is like an upper and indica is like a downer or whatever, but there's no real good reason to believe that. But for sure, earth require different lengths, that they grow in a different structure, and they require more time to mature.
That's an interesting point, and Jim's giving us the wrap up. Maybe you can stay with us a little bit more. We'll get some more questions out here. It's a really interesting topic, but the point I was trying to make, it seems as if at some point, decision-making and selection and choice of cannabis for medical patients up until now was, for a long time was, we got some indicas and we got some sativas. And now that seems to be less of a thing. I mean, and as Jamie's pointed out, it's more in structure and how the plant grows, like the Christmas tree kind of shaped plant and buds is more of the indica, and the sativa is more of a, is that right? Is that how it was
The
always?
cannabinoids and terpenes.
Well, but I'm saying people don't buy cannabis to sell anymore based on indica, where they used to at some point, right? I mean, this is indica, that's a sativa.
No, that belief is still really permeated in a lot of people. They will say, I want a sativa, believing that it's more of an upper feeling, or they'll say, I want an indica, believing that it's more of a downer feling. I mean,
it's like on carts,
no reason to believe it ever did have that. But right. Even if it did, as pointed out many times, it wouldn't matter now. There's no like pure version of either one of those things around.
Right. There's no
you
control.
Probably don't want to see most true landrace strains on some of them, just like CD.
I mean, hasn't that been the problem with all of this? Like, you've got the real genetic for the Colorado monkey sky. Where's the control sample that you're able to measure it against? You know what I mean? Like, where's the the baseline that's the one? You know what I mean? That came from that original and hasn't been. All right, that's.
For instance, we're 5 minutes over the baseline.
Let's take a break.
Let me say $5,000 I heard one time for a clone.
It's a good deal. Someone should take it.
Sounds gray market, the way you said that. All right, we're taking a quick break. Planet Green Trees, episode 501. We're making the turn.
Boom.
We got 499 laps to go. Let's do it. You guys with me? Drink some water. We got to hydrate.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
Hydrated.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
Call me a wild child. I had a look in my eye. Never quite to the night. Oh, my God knows I tried. I put the girls outside. But I never tried to get in with a long time coming. But I figured out something. One big family of evolutionaries. Growing wild daisies with our faces to the sun. We're dancing free. Yeah, we are evolutionary. Wildflowers, baby. We are different yellow one. We are a colorful garden, a living and loving, growing up wild and teach the long way. Hear them all say, one man's path is another man's trap, and you can't deny that. Hold no fury, no judge in jury. Nope, we're all trying to make it home. Aging like that, we're not alone. One big family of evolutionaries. Growing wild daisies with our faces to the sun. We're dancing free, free, free. We are evolutionaries. Wildflowers, baby. We are different, yellow one. We are a colorful garden of living and loving. We are a magical garden of living and loving. We are a mad, crazy garden of living and loving.
Hi, this is retired Sergeant Steve Miller, and you are watching Planet Green Trees.
Here's Michael Komorn with more Planet Green Trees.
All right. All righty, we're back. Planet Green Trees, episode 501. We're talking with Robar, who is enlightening all of us about this crazy hemp plant. Sounds like cannabis, but he's keeping it straight for us here. The FDA you mentioned earlier. People. So what are the concerns that retailers have in terms of the FDA and what, if anything, we know that one cannot do in marketing or providing representations of the
Good question.
the product. So I got a couple stories and I got a legal answer, but let me hear what your thoughts are on that.
Claims is probably the biggest thing. Because it's not a supplement, they're not identifying it as a supplement because, anytime you're making any claim of any product treating, doing anything, and because we're hemp, it's way underneath more of a scrutiny than the majority of things, in my opinion. Probably like most of us would say.
Sure.
But as far as it goes, that's probably my biggest struggle. Then I do the graphic design, I do all the layout, I do a lot of the social media stuff and things like that for the company. And, it's really easy for a company to just say pain relief, because, my product, like the topical, does treat pain, it does, but, those are the things that they're looking at. And that's what they're nailing people on. And, about, it seems every 3-4 months, they pick about 5-6 companies, rail down the thing, and I'll send them a bunch of warning letters. And usually, the warning letter is stop. And then if you don't stop, you're looking at a fine of, $800,000 or something.
Sure.
Like it could be whatever you determine depending on the severity of whatever claims. But yeah, it's a big thing. It's probably the number one struggle that we have with anything. Because I know why I started it. You know what I mean? I know what it's done for me. I know what it's done for other people. Being able to do all that is like, how do you market it? How do you treat it? How do you...
Well, just to expand on that a little bit, Jeff Frazier, you know what we're talking about here. The Epidiolex is a pharmaceutical product that is a CBD spray for children's epilepsy. And they have the patent on these plants' medicinal properties, and them alone are the only ones that are allowed to. So really, the FDA is complaining, and the DEA is complaining about.
I don't think that's the case.
Well, let me finish, and then
Okay.
and Jeff Frazier can either help me out here.
I have a question too.
But the point, well, no, Epidiolex is a pharmaceutical.
Yeah, and they have a patent, but it's not on the plant as medicine. It's
Well,
on
it's the CBD
It's the process. It's the process.
They alone are allowed to market that it's medicinal. That's the point, okay? The medicinal healing qualities of this particular plant are the only ones that have that designation. For everything else, don't get near it. And why? Because they have that designation. So you can say anything you want. The FDA's interference is that you don't have this designation,
Right.
therefore we're going to stop you. Or we're protecting the ones that do have the designation because they're the ones that are going to get the money on this advertising. Okay?
But who's claiming health? I don't.
Everybody does. This is the struggle because it is a health. He's saying the topical lotions. Why do you use it? Does something.
Well, yeah, and everybody knows
positive effects.
Everybody knows that. I think
So-
that's.
Well, I'm saying so I brought up the point that the FDA looks for things that in marketing that suggest healing, medicinal.
Yes, they do.
Are you suggesting, like I always thought the non-FDA approved supplements, take at your own risk, they're not, is that is, are you suggesting that is something you stay away from or you do get into the zone of
I've done a lot of education over the years. I have a good series of things that a lot of people really enjoy. Pamphlets and things that you know, and in that I don't put the products. I just talk about hemp. I just talk about potential benefits, and you know, even some of that using the word potential, you know, they say could not be a word that we should use. And on my website, it kind of gives a breakdown of my, you know, quick synopsis of my story.
Sure.
Why I came up with a topical, and even that I kind of have to almost take off now.
Right. Well, what about? Do you use supplement? Do you refer to it as like a, you know, I mean, like conceptually, you go to GMC and on the label they say, you know, build mass and get big and huge, and you know, and then you read it's a supplement, non-FDA
It's an herbal
approved
supplement,
right.
which is I always thought about that, and you know, my packaging is I've always stayed away from the different things that I'm trying to look for one here. You know, herbal extract, infused topical versus saying, you know, or the tincture being drops versus whatever. Why is that? Because certain states, honestly, Louisiana is one of them, that you cannot use the word supplement. If you use the word supplement in your hemp packaging, they will reject it. And Louisiana is one of those states that's trying to control CBD and hemp, trying to say that it's, you know, you have to, and it's really a matter of registering with the state. Indiana did something similar as far as just registering that you're a hemp processor and that you're legal. That's really all they were looking for. But Louisiana, we had to send in a bunch of products. They ran them through the thing, looked at everything, and like we can't sell our cooling topical there because it contains camphor.
Oh, wow.
Camphor combined with hemp apparently is illegal.
What's camphor?
In Louisiana.
Oil?
An herb.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it psychoactive? All right.
It's just,
okay, like a.
it's like
Well,
a
camphor.
menthol type of. Yeah.
Yeah,
Rob, what
here's
is
the weird
camphor?
thing, and we kind of know why they do that. When we first started, we had the cooling. We sent it out for testing. We, you know, and that's an isolate product that was in that. So there's no THC in it, but all of them came back great. Our cooling came back hot, and why was that? We broke it down, and it was because of the camphor oil. Because why is it? It's high in TCHA.
Oh.
Which something that I was like,
Interesting.
so
That's interesting.
why don't people huff camphor oil?
Hey,
Sorry.
so as far as huffing.
What's it called?
now-
Camphor oil?
Camphor.
Yeah.
Where are the huffing bags? How do you get those? Just kidding.
Hey,
Camphor.
CAMPHOR.
But yeah, camphor oil. It's in any health food store.
Okay.
Hey, Rob, what are your thoughts in regards to? I've been seeing some recent mumbles about respirators, hemp CBD type of respirators.
Like the
what
inhaler things.
Yes, inhalers. I'm sorry. What
I don't know.
What are your
I would,
thoughts
in all
about
honesty,
that?
Because they have THC ones already, but then it's a glycol, and not that that's bad for you, because that's what they already use. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I haven't really looked too much into any of them really, but it would be good for the quick acting. You know, that's why a lot of people vape anyways.
So you
know,
think
the cartridges.
you don't see it as like any potential ingredients that may be harmful?
That's what I mean. That's why you don't. They're out there, but again, I don't know that much about the ingredients and the inhalant of. Like I know that like my daughter would have a rescue inhaler. What's in there is propylene glycol. It's what's in e-liquid. It's what's it's very similar to that. So it's not like going to kill you at all. But who is creating that? Who's doing that? Who's making it?
Right.
And that all has to be, regulated. It's
sure.
Anytime you add in all these different inhalants and different things, all that's got to go through testing eventually, I would imagine. All the ingredients.
Alan?
Robert, I have a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned before that you buy from other hemp producers. Are those exclusively in Michigan, or have you bought from out of state?
Well, most of the oil, actually, a lot of the oil that we have does come from Wisconsin, mostly because that's the best place that we found source-wise, quality-wise, passing all of our tests. And, again, price is a thing. Some of it is also meeting the right people in Michigan and the price, trying to be fair to everybody. And again, I think this year there's more You know, as far as availability goes, there's so much oil that people are sitting on from last year, flour, biomass that they're sitting on from last year. It's all got to go somewhere. They're trying to dump it fast.
Yeah, no, my question was not about in favoring Michigan market, but more concerned about interstate commerce. That.
Right.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, we only deal with a couple of people specifically for specific reasons. It's really the relationships and the quality.
But you haven't had any problem shipping out of state.
No, not really.
Alan,
hemp for a little bit, but not really oil too much.
Okay.
And all of this comes because for those that are listening and want to engage in said industry, the test will be at the moment of the interaction with the law enforcement, wherever it may be, and the ability to validate that it has come from a farm that's registered somewhere, and that the material is in fact coming with a lab test validating that. And
yeah, COA is on all of them. And yeah, it gets shipped. Hemp flower. All of our stuff that we sell to the public is all jarred. It's all very well packed and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, there's been times.
Hold on.
You just look at it and go.
I have a couple other questions, but Jim, I didn't mean to cut you off. So what's your argument? And Jeff Frazier.
My argument.
No. You said you didn't think that the reason why there was limitations on how you could describe it for marketing purposes was related to protecting Epidiolex, or what do you think the reason is that they are? They being the FDA, that's intercepting this, monitoring the way that this industry is taking place and taking a concerted effort. I mean, letters go out. They're obviously watching the internet market, the store market. What do you think the reason is that they're so concerned with the alluding to that it, as we said, Rob said, it may help you. It may have a good impact in your life.
This is what they do. They do it with supplements too, and it's
the supplement industry has always been on the edge of it. In all honesty, I've always said from the beginning, look at the supplement industry because they always have to spank down the FDA.
Yep.
But if you look at any supplement packaging, majority of them, like vitamins, they mention nothing other than the fact of the name, what it is, the the bindings or whatever it might be, the ingredients, and that's it.
Yep.
There is no claim on it.
It says supplement. It says supplement, doesn't it?
But yeah, and again, that's the difference in it. If you make any claim, it becomes the drug. Now there are a certain pathway that I have recently discovered that I'm looking into that I don't really understand enough to really talk deeply about. But there is a certain way that by claiming CBD as an inactive ingredient, the hemp extract, that you could use the other ones like arnica, the other products that we use in it, that have already been identified as having potential by the FDA, that they could potentially, you could start to use some types of claims.
Right. You're
not
saying
like, stop cancer, but that it could potentially, you could start working that way.
In other words, the non-active CBD is included in it, but it's not being sold for that purpose. It's included in it, but you're labeling it.
Yeah, it's something like that. And it was another guy in the industry kind of lightened me onto that, and I was like, oh, so it's it has its own things, in all honesty, and it's we talk a little bit about the lawlessness, the not organization, looseness of things.
Sure.
Everybody talks about wanting to have a pathway. Oh, we want the FDA to get involved. I can't say deep down that I do.
No, you don't.
You know what I mean? You guys, you know what I mean?
We don't want them in our business.
You have so many people in the industry, though. That's where they fight it.
Of course they do.
No, we have to have. It's like no.
They
you
should.
Don't want more.
They should be careful. They should be really careful what they wish for, because I'm going to tell you that the path that's going to occur for a lot of these hemp-based medicines is the same one that's going to occur for the THC-based
ones. Oh yeah, it's not a win situation. Right. If you look at e-liquid, I mentioned e-liquid because a lot of my friends, and I'm kind of from that industry too. It's like, you guys can do it now, but you're going to have to go through and do all these things. In all honesty, it's like $750,000 a SKU per SKU, because you have to. Each one of them has to have a test, like a clinical test. You have to rent a hospital. All these Each product, not just in general, like nicotine in general. It's each individual brand product. You know, it's like, come on.
Wow.
Yep.
You know, how many are going to make it through that?
Well, it's not just making it through that. What happens when the drug companies really get involved? Because
I'm sorry,
it's
what was that?
the pharmaceutical companies, because they're they're involved
which is the
now,
bigger
but
one, tobacco or pharmaceutical, they're both in it.
Exactly, but they're just not in it in a meaningful way yet. But once they are, things are going to change drastically.
They can poke it and then just step right out. You know what I mean?
Yep, exactly. Yep.
It's like, oh, I'm out, and then it can come back in when it's, you know.
That's right. When it's convenient.
It's okay to. Marinol. Why does Marinol ever even exist? Because, you can synthesize something. It's cool.
Yep, that's right.
No, it's okay. But then you find out that synthesizing was not good.
Right.
The pure THC is not is medicinal. It's like bench pressing for your best health with a back problem.
CBD as a whole.
Right.
That's why the whole plant idea comes up.
Right. Well, here you go. You brought it back because I was always, I have no scientific reason or any research to back this up, but I always felt like the THC was part of the delivery to the endocannabinoid system. Like it needed to, you know, because you know, the medicinal effect of it has the THC at a certain level, like, you know, in one's bloodstream, like 6, 8, 12. You know, like after someone ingests cannabis, smoking-wise, it goes way high up for a period of time, drops, and it stays at this level, you know, in your system for a period of time, and then slowly will be metabolized if that's your only level of ingestion. But I don't know. I always thought that the THC was necessary for some of the delivery, you know, to kind of get it.
For sure.
And then the other thing that I was going to say is that she's not there anymore. Jamie left. Okay, but I remember. There's a lot of discussion about juicing while one is also ingesting other forms of cannabis in terms of its overall effect on you. You know, all the cannabinoids from the juice and also some of the foods that people make. Oh yeah, and also including with certain fruits. I think that help with the delivery to the system. And I'm talking from a medicinal effect from the whole plant juicing or juicing in addition to smoking the hemp flower or even more THC. Do you see what I'm saying? Like that, like in terms of I don't know. I said entourage. Jamie's called it. What's the other word that?
Ensemble.
Ensemble. This is like the Mac Daddy ensemble.
Mac Daddy.
Where you're connecting all these different systems together, and their interaction is different than just the limited ingestion.
Oh yeah.
But I'm just saying, I don't know if you've had that experience. You seem like you've tried a number of different
I'm always
combos
messing with lots of different methods, and that's why I find so fascinating about the growth of individual cannabinoids, discovery of them. And I say this all the time that we discover all these ones. Like CBG last year became a big thing, and really as people started to smoke a much earlier version of the plant is what you're doing. It's not going to the same maturity. Now with autoflower and different ways to make it grow faster to do certain traits, resin productions, those types of things. But there's virtually not a lot of smell. CBG doesn't have a ton of terpy smells. So it's one of those things to me that's always good, but not always what somebody is really looking for. But people who have really enjoyed smoking it say it's one person told me one time, he goes, it's like I went to my float tank and you just smoked it and was, no cares in the world, nothing heavy on the head, body felt pretty good. But then, people are finding it with their children to act, it mix it together. I like the thing of finding all these different cannabinoids, but then I always talk about, it always goes back to the full spectrum.
Right.
It's all the ones together, but now I don't like the term modified broad spectrum, but the use of broad spectrum oil now allows people to have literally all these different ways to consume,
or even to grow, or even to modify and enhance these other identifiable cannabinoids, and breeding them, or
CBN is going to be huge this year.
Right.
Trivia question.
Yeah.
Trivia question. Have you ever heard of the fact that Abraham Lincoln liked to smoke sweet hemp? the end of the day.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Actually, my company has a whole series of shirts. This is one of them, and it has presidential quotes on the back of hemp, like the 5 or 6 of them or whatever.
Right here.
On this one, I think it has a Thomas Jefferson one, but there's the hemp one.
Let them sow the seeds of hemp everywhere or something like that. That's the Jefferson one, right?
Sitting on his smoking a bowl of his sweet hemp, playing his horn or harmonica.
That was either. I thought that was George Washington or Abe.
Oh, that was Lincoln.
Okay.
Lincoln liked smoking sweet hemp on the porch in the afternoon while playing his harmonica. Thomas Jefferson, however, risked capital punishment for importing seeds from China.
How did they know it was hemp back then? Did they have labs testing to see if it was less than 0.3%? Or were they just guessing?
No, it was all hemp. They were just different varieties.
Yeah, it is whatever with it,
There was a swag hemp and there was the good hemp for the mind.
Pretty much that way until 60 some, isn't it?
Naturally occurring plant in the United States, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Was there any questions I should have asked you that I didn't?
Will you drop dirty on a test?
No, that's a good point. No, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell that. That's a great question. Here's the story. Recently published article in the Journal of American Medicine Association, also known as JAMA, states that, in fact, what was previously thought to not be true is in fact true, which is that the testing of urine, which means that the system has metabolized whatever is in your blood because it's gone through your liver and your kidneys, and by coming out that particular method, it's a byproduct, just like wherever the original THC molecule existed. So you are getting into the urine the metabolite carboxy-THC, or what is known as THC-11 or COH-11, not delta-9. Delta-9 is the THC, bad.
It's a controlled one.
It's a controlled one.
Yeah.
So what we've learned is that, in fact, the urine testing that produced so here, this is how it goes. So someone's on probation, they go to their testing, they drop a urine sample, and they come back and say, you've got 50 nanograms of carboxy-THC. The lawyer says, but that's not THC. THC is a controlled substance. I can understand, Judge, if you said no illegal activity. But she's got the metabolite, and we know from a case in 2010 called Fiesel that the metabolite, carboxy-THC, is not a controlled substance. It used to be a crime in Michigan to have that carboxy-THC in your bloodstream, and they, as a matter of stare decisis, overruled that, saying that chemical is not a controlled substance. So now, you're on probation, and it shows up in your urine. How could this be a crime? And the judge says, counsel, that's thoughtful of you. However, I'm going to use my common sense and utilize circumstantial evidence here that there's no other method by which the carboxy-THC could have gotten into their urine. Were they eating poppy seed bagel?
Maybe.
Was there some secondhand smoke going on? Counsel, I'm just not buying it.
Could have
I'm
been.
fine. Now, here you go. However, no, Judge, my client purchased CBD products from
smoking sweet hemp.
Rob Robar, whose products have CBD gummies, and I ate those, and in fact, it's a lawful product. So what we have here is this. We've got a mechanism of testing and violating people every day in every court and every probation across the state. Because have the courts changed their view of marijuana?
No.
Okay.
No.
Are they allowing people to smoke marijuana when they're on probation for whatever crimes?
No.
No, we
So
witnessed that
when they
earlier
test
this week.
positive for carboxy-THC,
They
they
will go to
cannot
jail.
delineate, they cannot determine, they cannot say with any certainty if the metabolite in the urine came from legal THC, products sold by Rob, or legal to adults over the age of 21 and prohibited for people on probation, THC. You feeling me?
We're feeling it, yeah.
So the science is there for this, too. And I will say this, to the shock and awe of the driving enforcement folks in the world, but this is the same can be said for THC in the blood. Feel me now. The THC in the blood, that it's 6 nanograms, 8 nanograms that results in submission to a jury to somehow suggest that it effectuates a person's ability to function in a motor vehicle like a normal, ordinary driver, prudently driving. In fact, that THC, whatever the level may or may not be, could have come from a legal source. And they will never be able to distinguish it. Jeff Frazier, what do you say to that?
I agree 100%. I think that generally speaking, it's a question. I think that I have a question. Why not just call it hemp?
Well, I mean, if we think Jefferson was smoking sweet hemp, I mean, there's a reason that was the good stuff.
My products, to be honest with you, I don't sell CBD. I don't sell different things. I sell hemp.
Right, there you go. And all things cannabis, marijuana, that are called marijuana should be called hemp.
The hemp.
That's it.
Oh, yeah,
all
for sure.
It's all hemp.
I mean, you're saying like by calling it marijuana, which is not a scientific term, by the way, by calling it cannabis, I guess cannabis has a more, suspiciousness to it versus
the cannabis
versus hemp.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. But it's all hemp.
Hemp is benign. No one cares about hemp in the way they care about cannabis.
I would even argue that there's no such thing. There's no such thing as cannabis seeds.
Yeah, they're all hemp seeds.
Are there any such things as anything other than hemp seeds, or hemp clones, or hemp veg?
How's the man going to figure that one out?
When does the THC become if it's right? The plant is not like any plant that's Colorado monkeys.
Any plant you can go. Any hemp plant you can push. You know what I'm saying? But genetics would make it go low.
Of course.
Like most genetics that are really out there, hemp genetics won't go.
You
too
can
high.
push it to be hot, but there's different stages in the cultivating of a cannabis plant from seed, which is not a measurement of THC. The veg, the clone, the veg to a certain point. The veg plants before they go into flower are not containing an amount of THC that would make it anything other than hemp.
And when you're cutting it early, because if you cut early, because most of THC is really booming at the end, really.
Right, but in the veg state, I know if you're going outside, it's different. But if you're moving it from, whatever, in the early stages of before it starts budding, right, before you move it to flower phase, or call whatever month of the outdoor grow season that occurs. But up to a certain point, even if you're growing, seeds that were known to be 27 THC, at some point, from seed to a certain point, there is not going to be more than 0.3% THC. At some point, there's going to maybe 27%, but clearly a growth size of it.
Yeah.
All right.
Who is the emperor? Who is the emperor of hemp?
The hemperor?
The emperor.
The emperor.
I know who it is. Alan, if you want the answer. Jack Herrera and Jeff Frazier.
Very good.
There you go.
It was a trivia question. Very good.
All right.
We got to go to a break.
I bought that book on Dead Tour back in '90, so.
And by the way, the pipe that was referred to earlier by Abe Lincoln was made by Jack Herrera. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Just kidding. We're going to take a break and be right back and listen to Planet Green Trees. Alan, what are you holding up there? Is that exact pipe? What do you know? Jack Herrera pipe. Okay. Planet Green Trees episode.
It is. It's a Jack Herrera pipe.
501.
501.
The best pipe there is.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today, michiganmedicalmarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive, up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strains, products, and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. michiganmedicalmarijuana.org.
Komorn Law. Michael Komorn is one of the top attorneys in Michigan that has experience and dedication in criminal defense law to provide clients with results. Komorn Law, the best damn criminal defense lawyers, period.
An important and historical farm crop in American agriculture is returned after having been classified as a controlled substance and illegal. On December 20th, 2018, the President signed the Farm Bill, also known as the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, into law. The signing of the act was great news for the hemp industry, which amended the definition of marijuana in the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Hemp is now defined as the plant, Cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, growing or not, with less than 0.3% THC concentration on a dry basis. The plant itself is no longer a controlled substance. Hemp is one of the most versatile plants on earth. From clothing, fiber, paper, building materials, hempcrete, biofuels, CBD, and medical uses, it has been a part of America's industry for over 200 years. Even the United States Constitution was drafted on hemp paper. The time is now. If you're thinking of getting in the farming or processing of hemp, contact our global experts, legal, and consultation teams to make sure that you're on the right road when you venture into the new hemp industrial revolution. Michigan Hemp Industries has been a leader and advocate for the return of the hemp industry, so come be a part of the new revolution in agriculture and
Bill Schuette led the charge against medical marijuana, and even after the will of the voters was decided and the support was enormous, he still continued to fight against the will of the voters, keeping patients from the medicine that they need. So I think it's important that we all speak up on what we think about this initiative. But when the voters have their say, their will must stand.
Here's Michael Komorn with more Planet Green Trees.
So, all right, thanks for staying with us. We are listening to Planet Green Trees, episode 501. We have Rob Robar still with us.
All right.
Rob, you do not have to say. I appreciate you staying. We're going to talk about other topics. I didn't want you to think you were being held hostage. Please,
if you want to talk about pee-pee with us, we'll do it. We're going to run right into it.
You know, Amanda kind of hit on it for a quick minute. You know, like as far as like our products, you know, and Michael was talking about it there too. You know, it's like, will you test dirty? I make absolutely zero claims to everybody, and I make it pretty clear to, you know, people, and they need to understand if they're looking to use hemp products that, you know, depending on how much you use of it, it could combine, the metabolites could, you know, especially Delta-8. Like on a lot of the packaging, you know, we make it really clear across the bottom that, you know, on the front side of the packaging that it's, you know, the more you use it, it could metabolize and you could, you know, not pass a drug test. Just being open with everybody on that, because a lot of people, you know, don't want to fool anybody, you know, but even our full spectrum products, those have a tiny bit. If you talk about things like broad spectrum, that has non-detectable THC, but enough of it could cause something, you know, depending on the test. And they're not testing for Delta-9 versus Delta-8 like you talked about, you know, it's one or the other. So.
For Delta-8, the little amounts, there's more of that in a you know, hemp plant, or you know that could be an impact on how it metabolizes and whatnot. And also the thing is, you know, you whatever you're going to say, whatever like the product itself, you can, you know, I don't think there's any way to say that it would ever necessarily not produce a test dirty. what I mean? Because every human is different. That's what we've learned from cannabis, right?
Yep.
Affects everybody differently.
Everybody's body stores it differently, all that.
Of course. So, I mean, it's, fat cells, metabolism, fight or flight syndrome, all those things, how much you work out, how much water you drink, all those things. All right, so, but it's an interesting area. I'm glad that there's some folks that are taking that path. I see a lot of future in this. It's been a weird time though with the state of Michigan, but being staying under the radar and building your brand is rather brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a way. All right, so let's. What topic are we going to talk about?
We're talking about the PP.
What about it? Testing?
Yeah. Apparently, there's this article on Leafly.
Okay, let's hear it.
And basically, they're talking about all these questions about drug tests.
Okay. Let's look at that.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, it covers a little bit about how long does weed stay in your system, and obviously that depends on the type of test. But the typical urine test is 30 to 45 days, so that's typically what people have to deal with. And there's multiple variables as far as body mass and metabolism that impact the level that you'll report out at. But as much as I appreciate what this article is trying to do, I would say the more positive news around drug testing is that less and less companies are doing it. And because more and more states are legalizing, and unemployment, even with the pandemic, especially in highly skilled areas, is so darn low that these companies realize that by not allowing for people to test for marijuana, that they're losing out on a big chunk of the talent pool. And it's my understanding there's certain government agencies that have taken a very similar approach, which is unheard of. But I don't know how much longer we'll be testing for marijuana. We'll have to see.
They shouldn't be.
The courts will, though. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. You know what the court's answer is going to be to all this, Michael? They're going to say, well, people can't use hemp then while they're on probation.
Yep, that's exactly what they'll say.
That's what it's going to come to.
Yep.
Forget about all this reform discussion, the justice system reform and all that. We'll just make hemp not viable. If you use hemp, you're in violation of your probation or your bond, and that's what it's going to be. You watch and see.
Yeah. I could see it.
Yeah. That will be their solution. Remember, because she was well, I'm not going to talk about it.
What?
Getting yourself all riled up.
Well, no, there was a judge. Michael and I were in a court, and a similar discussion came up, and there was discussion with the probation officer about how different things can affect these tests, like the different certain things can affect the alcohol test. If you use mouthwash right before, that could, test. So the probation officer always is certain to tell you to avoid using these things because it may trigger a test, and if that triggers a positive test, then you'll violate your probation.
Sucks to be you.
So that was the conversation that kind of took place that day, Michael, and that just coming to mind now, that has me thinking that that'll be their solution. That will be one of those things that you can't use any hemp or CBD products while you're on probation, because if it triggers a positive test, then you'll be in violation no matter what it is.
Sure.
Have any of you been in hospitals recently?
Thank goodness no.
Okay, I'm just asking this because my wife is an RN. And in knowing a bit of conversations that happen on that subject now, and how literally everyone who walks in is smoking. So they don't test at all anymore, really, in the hospital situation, really. Good. For THC. It's really because it's just not worth anybody's time and worrying about looking at.
No, it's not.
At least from what I'm hearing, it's not a for sure kind of thing. I'm just saying that what I see, I used to sell used to work at 3 doors down, and used to sell testing supplies, and you sit there and you look and watch everybody, and how long it has to stay in the system, and learning all these different things. That's why I'm kind of hanging on a little bit, because I really kind of spend a lot of time with a lot of people on, and still to this day, about length of time that it stays in people, casual users especially, who are worried about it.
I've known really chronic users that it's taken over 6 months.
That would be me, I'm pretty sure.
Especially if they've got a lot of body fat, and they're storing those molecules, man.
Because
it
that's
takes
where
forever.
It stores. Yeah.
Length of hair.
Yeah.
That's why hair tests are such a thing. I had a hair test once for EDS, and had short hair, and that's the first thing I asked. I was like, where can we take it? Because they'll take it wherever they can.
Yeah, they will.
So what do you guys think, a little bit off topic, I guess, but what do you guys think about genetic, or like the DNA cannabis testing that has been, I've heard of, I think it's called Canna GX is the company, and they say that you swab and you send your spit swab to them, and then they can analyze you and determine what types of cannabinoids and terpenes and such that you should be ingesting for your particular condition. What are your thoughts about that? Have you heard about it?
Worried, or
have you heard about that?
I have heard about it. Yeah, I know a few people who are kind of a few CBD shops who I think sell such things.
What are your thoughts?
It's interesting. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how they really know, though. I mean, how do they know based on this makeup already? Like, who's determined that? I guess I don't know. We're just learning more about terpenes all the time, and we know that terpenes exist in all these other plants, blah blah blah, but we don't know the effects of like botanical terpenes. In all honesty, that's why the state of Michigan wants them to be cannabis derived, but botanical is allowed. So we don't really know what that does.
Is it terpene, or is there specific terpenes to each plant?
Like
a variety of terpenes.
I mean, can they delineate? Like, if you're walking around with a bunch of terpenes, can they tell if it came from cannabis or from fruit to a pineapple? It's not detectable, right?
Terpenes are like THCs. There's a variety of THCs.
Yeah, but it's not identifiable as its own thing because it's naturally occurring in our environment, right? I mean, various other places, through other plants and other ecosystems and whatnot, right? It's.
Oh yeah, no. Pine is alpina and stuff like that. It's in pine trees and all these different things. So that's really what like most people really associate all these smells with. They've been smelling essential oils forever, but even that. You see inhaling pens of essential oils, cannabinoids, essential oils. And I'm just like,
right.
Again, inhaling that, what's that to the lungs long term?
It's really, it's insane what we're talking about right now. The distinctions and delineations of, like the use of some plants for medicinal purposes, smoking, mixing, delivery systems, mixing with other. I mean, it's and just what we're saying, like the idea that the hemp plant that has all these cannabinoids that are medicinal and the hang-ups of all the stuff that we're talking about and the limitations of how you get the plant out and all these. I don't know. It's rather. It's silly. All right, so what are the other... let's get some topics. Jimmy, pick one. Let's go. Let's get it, Rob. Make him answer some questions.
Let's see. We've got cannabis stocks nosedive. As rally driven by hopes for U.S. legal reforms comes to a screeching halt.
Well, imagine that. Sloppy Joe said no. That's what happened.
Not today.
What has he got?
Not today, pig.
Doesn't he have Patrick Kennedy on one of his
I don't know.
drug?
I don't know, but we all knew this was going to happen. So
yeah, we did. I mean, it's not a surprise.
Talk is cheap. And Just,
Yeah, it was funny. Yesterday, I thought I made a bunch of money on my cannabis stocks.
No.
Then today happened.
Yeah.
They must have got word
my son.
They must have got word that Sloppy Joe has said no, Jim. Sloppy Joe wanted Schedule 2 or remain Schedule 1.
That's
that was
right.
the option.
Take it or leave it. Take it or leave it.
Yep.
Because marijuana is a lot like cocaine, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense to me.
But, you bring that up. How many people do you hear about dying of cocaine? You know what I mean? You don't hear about it, do you? I know it can happen.
Of course, but I mean, but you remember when we were growing up in the 80s, I mean, crack cocaine epidemic, I mean, many people died as a result of abusing cocaine. And to say that it and marijuana should be classified similarly is outrageous.
Ridiculous.
It's outrageous. What's really outrageous, though, is right now, based on the schedule, marijuana is worse than cocaine.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make any damn sense.
One time when we were at the judicial hearing for the House Bill 50, the forfeiture bill, and we were doing the testimony over there, and in Lansing, and Steve Fisher was there, Michael, you were there, and then Sharmy and a bunch of people. Anyways, there was also the state police were there, so they provided some testimony.
They're stakeholders
as to
in all of this.
Was Sergeant Slaughter there? You remember who I'm talking about, right? The liaison. What was her name? Do you guys remember?
It was a female because she was. I don't know her name, but she was saying that she would much rather bust somebody with a pound of. An ounce of marijuana versus a pound of cocaine.
Heroin. Why?
What
because
was the
of the scheduling. Because of just the I don't know. She would prefer to bust somebody over marijuana versus cocaine. She would let
Amy Dunner. That was her name.
Okay.
Amy Dunner.
But no reason for that other than the way it was scheduled.
Right. From, because it's very harmful and clearly, they want to be able to continue their cash grab. That was the forfeiture bill that went through that was, I believe they have to, there's something about 50,000. Maybe Michael can say more about it. I can't remember exactly what the
It requires
the
a
bill
conviction
was,
for forfeiture for $50,000 and less.
Why don't you have Jeff Frazier could enlighten us on the laws in California relative to their progress with legalizing marijuana and forfeiture law and other laws that have come about since they legalized marijuana and created an industry. Jeff, you mentioned something in a complaint that the guy was charged with participating in the illegal activity associated with the legal market, right?
The thing is that California, like Michigan, passed medical, passed adult use, passed licensing, all this other kind of stuff, and yet continues to list marijuana as Schedule 1, actually cannabis as Schedule 1 on its the State Controlled Substances Act. In Michigan, we all know that we've been fighting to arguing that changes the standard for probable cause, that the smell of marijuana or the mere presence of cannabis or the smell of the plant simply is no longer reasonable suspicion to stop or probable cause to search and seize and forfeit your shit. And we're still in the middle of that battle here in Michigan or there in Michigan. In California, there is a court case. The appellate court has held that because of legalization of adult use, that the smell of cannabis is no longer a smell of a controlled substance. That it could be hemp, it could be cannabis, it could be marijuana, but the smell or the mere presence is no longer reasonable suspicion to stop, probable cause to search, etc. And of course, they had some forfeiture reform where you have to have a conviction before they can take your stuff, unless it's more than $40,000 worth of stuff. In which case, what they're incentivizing out there clearly is just the bigger forfeitures. And so they're shaking down people on the highway. Still, we have cases. They're shaking down people, and I pulled over for a pretext stop. I smell marijuana. I'm going to search your car and find a bunch of cash. And our guys say
there's a lot of vehicles out there now that are worth more than $40,000.
Oh, yeah.
I know, but look, they did it. They did the wrong way. It should have required a conviction on less than 40 and not a conviction on more than 40. All it does
Zoning is the modern way, is the future for the cities and the townships, and they're going to use those zoning laws to go after patients and caregivers in the future. That
nuisance.
Zoning. And I refer, if I may, to the most recent case from the Michigan Court of Appeals, York versus Miller. It just came out.
Where's the trumpet?
January 28th, 2021. So how many days? That was like that's 2 weeks ago. But that's how they're going to regulate it from now on, is using the zoning laws. And in this case, York versus Miller, in particular, it's a second opinion on this case. The first opinion on the same case number, which Court of Appeals number is 335344, came out 3 years ago. Came out on January 18, 2018. It's a published opinion. And when it came out in 2018, they were trying to stop outdoor growing with a zoning law. And at the time, the Court of Appeals ruled in favor of the patients and caregivers and said that they could not restrict outdoor growing, that to stop that would be in direct conflict with the MMA. And unfortunately, since that case was decided, we've had this new case, DeRuyter versus Byron Township, came out in 2020 from the Michigan Supreme Court, which said that the zoning laws can be used to restrict medical marijuana patients and caregivers. They said that they cannot totally cut them off or prohibit their activities, but if they restrict them, well, that's permitted. So in light of this DeRuyter opinion, this case of York versus Miller was reheard by the Court of Appeals, and they published a 3-page opinion this time. The first opinion was 9 pages, but this opinion's 3 pages. It really doesn't say much about what they can do after DeRuyter, except that their zoning laws do not conflict with the Medical Marijuana Act. And this is what really puzzles me under this new opinion, because this new opinion, what they were trying to do in York versus Miller was restrict outdoor growing of medical marijuana. They had a zoning ordinance, and it prohibited the outdoor growth or cultivation in all zoning districts. Now, the problem I have with prohibiting it is I see that as a direct conflict with the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. And the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, in particular, section 333.26423 defines various things of the Medical Marijuana Act. An enclosed locked facility under section D includes outdoor growth for medical marijuana, provided that it's not visible with the unaided eye from an adjacent property when viewed by an individual at ground level or from a permanent structure. And it's grown with a stationary structure that is closed on all sides, except for the base, by chain link fencing, wooden slates, or other similar materials. So it's actually a very long definition here that I'm getting at, that provides for outdoor growing
Quite long.
under the Medical Marijuana Act. So it's specifically allowed for. And now they're saying that this zoning act can specifically prohibit it, and I think they're wrong. I don't think they read the Medical Marijuana Act to do that, because while they can use zoning acts to restrict things that are allowed under the Medical Marijuana Act, they can't prohibit it. So I'm just going to go flat out and
they can't restrict
say
things. They can't
say this
restrict
opinion's
things.
wrong.
Right, I agree. They can't restrict things that are. They can't prohibit things that are passive under the MMA,
Right.
and by virtue of identifying yourself at all as a patient or caregiver, arguably, is a disclosure of information that should not be disclosed and is privileged and private in terms
Keep
of the
it to
private registry.
yourself.
Well, I'm just saying. I'm saying it's like if they say, okay, we got all caregivers have to register and tell us where you are.
No.
I don't think they can do that.
They've tried, and it's been roundly rejected.
But the premise of them being able to tell you what you can do beyond that
Yeah.
begins with identifying where you are.
That's right.
So the premise of those caregivers that we learn about and verify that they're caregivers is, I don't know, it's kind of a bad starting point because it begs the
It
question.
seems to be it's a law that cannot be enforced. I'll point out, Southfield passed a caregiver zoning law about 6 years ago that restricted where caregivers could locate. And in Southfield, City of Southfield said that caregivers can only locate in areas zoned light industrial. And when you looked at the other zoning and distance requirements, at the time when I looked at it, there was 3 possible locations for caregivers in Southfield, with a city of about 70,000 people. So clearly, 3 caregivers would not be enough for 70,000 people. If you figured 1 in 100 was a patient, that's not going to service 700 people. As far as I know, no one's ever been ticketed under that Southfield ordinance, and I doubt anyone will ever be ticketed under this York ordinance. But it's interesting these cities are wasting their time or their city councils to pass these laws that they can't enforce. And I would, while this is not legal advice, I would like to hear about it if anybody in York Township is actually ticketed for growing outdoors after this case.
We do have a question from the audience, actually, and Justin from the bunker.
Okay.
And this question is targeted to Rob, and he wants to know if your background there is an aquarium or a television.
This is Justin asking this question? In the other room?
Justin!
Sorry, I missed the end of that.
Is it an aquarium or a television?
Aquarium. In the background.
My background?
Yeah, is it a TV or an aquarium?
Behind you, do you have a fish tank? Or
Oh, the aquarium.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's the TV. That's a Roku.
Oh, that's your screen.
Roku background.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Mystery
And I
solved.
put it on there so Jedi can stare at it, so he stays calm. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Justin's always got the hard-hitting
Pug,
questions.
A
It's
delightful
good.
pug.
What?
His pug's name is Jedi.
Oh.
And
Yes,
so,
yes. He's kind of a pug.
Is he around? Can you give him a
No, he's upstairs in bed with my wife.
little? Oh, he's sleeping already.
If she's home, that's where he's at.
potato.
She's the number one. We all know that.
Oh, yeah.
I will say this though, like the salve is pug approved because he uses it all the time. But I did catch him the other night.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he likes that.
I forgot. Yeah.
He's opened 2 jars before. I found this one luckily because this is a Delta 8 jar.
Oh.
So he could have been pretty messed up.
Yeah.
Although in his past he has, one day I couldn't find a Delta 8 gummy that I had. And we did eat one of those. He threw it up right away, so he was okay. But
Yeah, so what is that? Dogs do not react well with THC.
No, they do not.
Yeah,
and that's, I don't like to even see or hear people giving their dogs THC.
yeah, no,
Well, in food, they can smoke it. Dogs are fine with smoking it. Am I
They
right?
love the
Smoke
CBD
it all day
though.
long. Yes.
He loves the unscented salve. That's why he doesn't know the difference. He just was like, oh, this big ass jar is on the edge of the table.
Yeah.
But he comes every day for it. Give him a little bit of a little bit, probably 2
find the
milligrams
good
CBD.
stuff.
But what does it say about the pug that it can be brainwashed by a television that's not even a real aquarium? What kind of level of intelligence are we talking about?
Come on, they're pugs.
I know.
They're totally.
They're all
upstairs.
body. They're all body,
Yes.
right? They're just like, look at me, and
Yes, they're very
they get through life,
photogenic, and
right.
they're just cute, and they sit there, and they have all kinds of sounds, and they wear clothes and stuff.
They're good for memes. Come on.
Yes, they're the best, but yeah, now I've got the little Frenchie now. Quincy and her were playing today, finally. That was the first time. So
there you go.
I guess they're bonded now.
They won't be solving any mysteries, solving any cures for things, but they will certainly be. They're eligible to be exploited on Instagram at any minute.
Why is THC bad for dogs? I've never heard that before.
Yeah, it's. Go ahead, Rob.
No, it's hard to say really because, in all honesty, I did have a dog that was going through some cancer issues, and I did try low dose RSO with them.
Yeah, I use that as well with dogs. The low dose.
And it really is just just a tiny bit in some food or whatever, and yeah, it's just mostly to help calm them and do that. But that's because Pico or RSO, really, I think it's just whole plant. It really is more sedative to me. It's always made me more sleepy.
I think
that's why I do like edibles that are made with distillate because I stay awake. You know what I mean? I like the focus of things, but at nighttime you don't want that.
I think the thing I meant
with a dog, I just think their brain acts differently with it. To be honest with you.
Yes, their body processes it differently, so you just don't want.
They have all the same receptors, but they respond to it much faster.
Yeah.
I guess really kind of what it is.
You just have to be super careful. There are, of course, benefits to it in low doses, but I hear people.
Yeah, he was a big dog too, and he was pretty bad off.
All right. We're going to get some of these various hemp products and sample them for the audience at some point in time. Amanda, I think you volunteered for that. And,
yes. I meant to bring them today, but I
wasn't. We weren't. Right. But we can. I was
coming in hot.
Yeah, coming in hot.
Coming in hot.
But I was. But it was a pleasure talking to you. I'm glad to hear you're doing so well. I think we should fire back up the Water for Compassion Club again. Meet over at the library or whatever. Where was it at the?
Well, we had Everybody's Cafe.
I'm aware of that place. I know. It's right.
And like I said, yeah, it was the VFW hall right before that.
That's what I thought, right.
They let us have like the first 3 or 4 events, and I think they got tired of everybody smoking in the parking lot, and then cops started to get wised up, and then it was like the Compassion Club at Everybody's, man. That was a fun time, but yeah, it was fun. Then it got scary, and I noticed the difference, and it was not as fun. And I could tell that something was going to go down there.
I have a vivid memory of the body camera undercover, quote unquote, camera of the net officers who posed as patients and got inside, where it was kind of farmers market-y kind of thing, and you had like a bunch of 24-year-old kids that were saying things. I remember like man, I've been getting high so much I can't even get high anymore. Like I remember that being like on the recording. And I was like some just they were just like picking little segments to kind of make it bad.
Guys came from all over the state.
Oh
man.
yeah,
that's funny.
That farmers market model is a good model. I mean, but I'm saying it's good for fruits and vegetables.
Yeah,
it's good for. It should be good for hemp. It should be good for cannabis. It works in other ways, and you know what I mean. But they haven't really sparked that up yet, have they? Like they haven't, like a.
No pun intended.
Yeah, like a end of the year kind of. They do need that. They need to have like some kind of more contract purchase kind of show your goods and bring them here and at the county fair almost at the end of the year can I don't know a lot of things to develop.
Join 4-H and grow marijuana.
Right.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, Jim, call us out of here.
We're out.
Take us away.
We're shutting her down.
Rob, thank you so much. I enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you, guys.
Everyone, check out the Helping Friendly Tinctures in Waterford. Online stores. Check it out. All these retail places that are exclusively selling this brand.
Boom.
Rob, thank you so much for joining us. And
thanks for having me.
Good catching up. And
no problem.
Everyone here, Jeff and Alan and Jamie, who's gone, thank you very much. And we will talk at you next week.
Boom.
All right.
Have a good one.
All right, you too.
Over and out.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today, michiganmedicalmarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today, michiganmedicalmarijuana.org.
Before you plead, call me Attorney Michael Komorn.
An important and historical farm crop in American agriculture is returned after having been classified as a controlled substance and illegal. On December 20th, 2018, the President signed the Farm Bill, also known as the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, into law. The signing of the act was great news for the hemp industry, which amended the definition of marijuana in the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Hemp is now defined as the plant, Cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, growing or not, with less than 0.3% THC concentration on a dry basis. The plant itself is no longer a controlled substance. Hemp is one of the most versatile plants on earth. From clothing, fiber, paper, building materials, hempcrete, biofuels, CBD, and medical uses, it has been a part of America's industry for over 200 years. Even the United States Constitution was drafted on hemp paper. The time is now. If you're thinking of getting in the farming or processing of hemp, contact our global experts, legal, and consultation teams to make sure that you're on the right road when you venture into the new hemp industrial revolution. Michigan Hemp Industries has been a leader and advocate for the return of the hemp industry, so come be a part of the new revolution in agriculture in Michigan.
We have launched.
We have completely launched. We've started the show, and it is Planet Green Trees. We're about to embark 2 hours of medical marijuana and marijuana reform in Michigan, and nationally, and internationally, and even in Spaceland. There's an argument that we evolved from the cannabis plant. Let's just be honest, okay?
Ow! What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing?
420th episode.
If you're a connoisseur, you're going to want the good stuff. And if you want the good stuff, you're going to go for the mom and pop stuff because that's the good stuff.
It's just a real pleasure to come here and congratulate you on your 420th show, and thank you for having me on a few times over the 420.
Michael Komorn is one of the top attorneys in Michigan that has experience and dedication in criminal defense law. Komorn Law can take your case from arrest all the way from trial, appeals, and even to the Supreme Court. The team at Komorn Law has the compassion and the experience you can look to for help in your time of need. Komorn Law has over 25 years experience in criminal defense. We have accomplished numerous legislative changes through community involvement and lobbying. Our award-winning law firm has a reputation like no other for keeping overreaching government accountable and in check. We have built Komorn Law for people who need lawyers to stand up to the system, fight back and win. Once we become your lawyer, you become a part of our family. Don't settle for less, just ask our clients. Komorn Law, the best damn criminal defense lawyers, period.